Hello, this is Michelle Spoonmore. I'm going to share with you my research related to teacher feedback. For our class project, I focused on feedback received by teachers from administrators and peers, as well as feedback provided by teachers to the student. In my experience, it seems that everyone has a different response to feedback and how it applies to their personal growth. Yet, there's no denying that feedback can be a powerful tool in education. One might wonder if teachers who find value in feedback from administrators and peers provide more feedback to their students. The study seeks to determine if there is a connection between teachers' attitudes towards their own received feedback and the feedback that they in turn provide to students. When I reflect on my professional career in education, I think about the different forms of feedback I've received from a wide variety of administrators, and I reflect on how my receptivity, reflection, and use has changed over time. Over the years, I have learned the value of feedback, and just as feedback helps to improve my teaching practice, I find it important to provide ongoing feedback to students to improve their learning. In my recent experience, teachers have asked for and really appreciated ongoing feedback from peers and administrators, yet they have not really articulated or effectively demonstrated a connection between the feedback they value for professional growth and the feedback they could potentially provide to students to improve learning. Hattie and Timperley claim feedback has no effect in a vacuum. To be powerful in its effect, there must be a learning context in which feedback is addressed. It is but part of the teaching process and is what happens second after a student has responded to initial instruction, when the information is provided regarding some aspect of the student's task performance. Social constructive researchers claim effective feedback is a powerful tool and can lead to significant gains in learning. For teachers and students, feedback provides a path of self-analysis focused on one's learning, decision-making, and thinking processes. According to Hall and Simmerall, the intent of providing teachers feedback is to encourage them to reflect on and critically analyze their work in order to make positive changes. The ultimate goal of focused feedback, according to Marzano, is for teachers to track their progress toward their goals over time. Lee et al. States that when teachers become more critical and reflective of their own teaching practices, they are better equipped to tailor feedback to students' needs. Their beliefs about learning and their personal feedback practices are then embedded in their instruction. While in some cases feedback is used to communicate to students what is right and what is wrong in their work, in other instances, it is a source against which students can evaluate progress and check out their own internal constructions of goals, criteria, and standards. This leads to the research question posed by the study. Do teachers who perceive feedback to positively Two questions from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development's 2013 Teaching and Learning International Survey, the TALIS, were selected to provide data for this for this study. Both selected questions produce qualitative interval data measured on a Likert scale. Data from the 2013 TALIS primary teacher survey was downloaded and imported into the IBM SPSS. Data was modified to account for responses that were omitted, that were not reached, or logically not applicable to that particular participant. Missing data was recorded and not included in the final data set. The first selected TALIS question for this study asked teachers, to what extent has feedback received at the school directly led to a positive change in your teaching practices? The response options for the questions include no change, small change, moderate change, and large change. I noticed that the majority of responses fall into the category of seeing a small change, or a moderate change in their teaching practices as a result of feedback received. The second question is, how often do you observe students when working on a particular task and provide immediate feedback as a method of assessing student learning in the classroom? The response options include never or almost never, occasionally, frequently, and in all or nearly all lessons. 82.8% of respondents provided immediate feedback frequently or in all or nearly all lessons. A bivariate correlation test was used to determine the relationship between perceived positive impact professional feedback has on their teaching practices and the frequency in which teachers provide immediate feedback to students in class. The results shown in this table reveal a statistically significant correlation with a p-value of less than 0.05. Though the results indicate a relationship between the variables exists, their relationship is incredibly weak. The coefficient of determination reveals that less than 1% of the variance in feedback to students was explained by the teacher's perception of their own received feedback. Though there was statistically significant correlation between the variables, the estimate for correlation coefficient is close to 0, which implies no relationship. This suggests that whether or not a teacher believes that feedback is helpful for their own improvement has little or no association with whether or not they value giving feedback to their students. This finding warrants further research to determine why this might be and what it suggests about teachers' perception of feedback. Future studies might include qualitative measures such as interviews to gain more insight into why teachers do or do not value their own feedback and in providing feedback to students. Further research might also identify specific constraints teachers find in providing student feedback, as well as their personal interpretation of what constitutes meaningful feedback. The following pages provide references for my research. Thank you for listening to my presentation today.